Namaste. This video is just to show you how to do Ekapada Koundinyasana 2, or EPK for short. Some people call it flying splits. And if you don't know what I mean, it's an arm balance where we have one leg outstretched in front and the other leg outstretched behind, okay? I'm only going to demonstrate one leg, one side. So make sure that when you're practicing it, you do it on both sides, okay? So to begin, we'll warm up a little bit, starting in a downward facing dog. If this is the first bit of movement you've done today, certainly if it's the first downward facing dog you've done today, do take some time to just warm up into the legs a little bit. Make sure that you're feeling good. Make sure that you warm up into your wrists a little bit as well. You can do that just rocking gently towards a plank and then rocking back, just getting the hands used to having some weight on them. Make sure that you're gripping the mat with your fingers and the knuckles of the first finger on both hands are firmly down on the mat, not lifting up. All right, so when you're ready, we'll lift the right leg up. Just breathe here. And then when you're ready, on your next exhale, bring your right knee towards your right shoulder, or the left if that's the leg you're working on. Flex the foot and place the foot to the outside of the right hand. Stay here now in this lizard lunge. Make sure that the back leg is active. So you're really lifting that knee up, the glutes are engaged, lift your core up, make sure that all those muscles are active, but we're just gonna rock and maybe make circles in the hips, whatever feels good for you, just to warm up into the hips here, warming up into this stretch. It may feel good for you to come down onto your forearms, that's fine, or if you like, you may want to press the right knee out to the side just to work into the hip at a slightly different angle. All right, so coming back to center, if you have gone anywhere, with the hands underneath the shoulders, keep that back knee lifted and begin to just straighten through the right knee a little bit. It doesn't have to go all the way straight, okay? If you're not feeling like it's gonna go straight, don't try and make it go straight. Just to a point that feels good for you, because you can do this arm balance without having straight legs. You do not have to have straight legs. So if you do feel quite tense in the hamstrings or in the hip adductors, that's the inner thigh muscles, then don't worry about it. You can still do this. We're just warming up a little bit though into the shape that our body is gonna be in, particularly our lower body. Just rocking forwards and backwards. If there's anything else that feels good for you here, maybe like wiggle your foot around in this kind of weird pyramid pose that we're in. Whatever feels good, all right? And then take the leg back into your downward facing dog. Roll forward into a plank and lower the knees down, but stay in a plank position. So your hips are not back over your knees, your hips are forward, so there's a straight line from your knees to your shoulders, okay? And then what I want you to do is start to bend your elbows straight back behind you, keeping the elbows close to your chest, so not going out wide. And then come back up. All right, that is the movement that we're gonna make as we do this, except one leg is gonna be forward. So try it again. That's basically your move when in the first step that we're gonna do, okay? So we'll do it now with the right leg lifted, or whichever leg you're working on. Bring the right knee towards the shoulder, just like we did before. Then lower your left knee down and bend your elbows. So what should happen is you want that knee to stay in contact with the elbow that it's on. So as you bend your elbows back behind you, you create a shelf that your leg sits on. Now, pay attention now to what's happening with the other elbow. For some people, you may be able to bend the elbow and have your other hip resting on that elbow. So you can see here, like it's resting there, and then the leg is resting on the other elbow. Okay, if you cannot get the other elbow in contact, that's fine too. It just means that more of your weight is going to be on the other side, but that's what you're working with. We've all got different shaped bodies, and so we all have to work in different ways. So find what works for you. Okay, so I'll just talk through that again. Right leg, or whichever leg you're working with, lifts up. Bring it towards the shoulder. Get it as high up as you can. Lower the back knee down. Bend your elbows back behind you. Let your chest go forward. So your elbows are over your wrists, not your shoulders. Then, with both knees bent, see, you can begin to play around with shifting your weight a little bit more forward towards your fingertips so that that back knee comes up. If you feel like your back leg is just too heavy, you can't get it up, that means that your weight is too far back on your hands and you need to shift your weight forward towards your fingertips. The back leg should just float up. Okay, so that's where you can start. It's just working on getting that back knee up with the knees bent. Okay, if that's working for you, then you just do the same thing, but keep the back knee up off the mat. So right knee towards the right shoulder. Keep the back leg lifted this time. Bend to elbows, create that shelf, and again, rock your weight forward towards the fingertips so the back leg comes up. And then if you've got the flexibility, you can extend the other leg straight. Okay? And then what I really like to make sure and do is come back the way I came. So back leg goes down, right leg up, into that downward facing dog. If you can come back out of a pose the same way that you came into it, then you really master it. That's how I always teach everything that I do. It's how I always do everything that I do. So it's one thing to get there and then collapse out of it. Okay? That's not really mastering the skill. And you'll teach your body, you'll teach your muscles and your nervous system and everything that's involved in doing this, how to master this just as much by coming out of it with control as going into it. So there we go. Knee up towards the shoulders, back knee can drop down if you need to. Make sure you create this shelf, rock forward, keep your chest up, keep your chest lifted, and then lift the legs up. Find some variation that works for you. Try and come back the way that you came. All right? I hope you found that helpful. And I look forward to sharing more with you. Make sure that you subscribe so that you can let me know what other sorts of things you'd like to learn. Namaste.